Okay, great. So we have a special guest today. This is Amy, and she's a client, and she was damaged by antibiotics, and she's just going to go through her story. But before you start, Amy, I just want to kind of give a shout out is to these videos. Is um, I think did you watch any of my videos before you reached out to me?
I searched for dysautonomia because those were my
Those are
symptoms.
your symptoms. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so I looked at some of the things that you had on Instagram
I
before
see.
I
Okay,
reached out to
Instagram.
you.
Okay, all right. It's interesting where
Yeah.
people get information, but my whole point of this is if you are watching this, um, it takes some courage for someone like Amy to come on and be recorded, right? So I just want people to know that there's some bravery with someone coming on and recording them.
Mm.
And I talked to Amy about this, and she agreed. And at the end of the day, really I know these videos make a huge impact on someone because when people come to me,
Mhm.
they say, I saw XYZ, or, and they'll reference a person in one of these videos. So,
Mhm.
so whoever's going to see this is, the internet, anyone can see it all over the world. Like you are definitely going to make an impact on someone. Cause I know for sure with 100% certainty, someone took these antibiotics, Cipro, Levofloxacin, whatever it is, and is having the same symptoms that you were having.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've been working together for about 6 months, and I just kind of want to read. I was looking at some of the texts that we had, and I just want to read one line
Mhm.
from one of the texts, and I think it kind of sums up like where you started from. Um, and you said to me here, or in a text, you said, which now you're completely different. You said, I break down multiple times every day in tears over how awful I feel.
Mhm.
That was in July of
Mhm.
2025. Just to give people a reference, now it's December of 2025. So 6 months. So maybe just kind of speak your heart and what happened to you,
Mhm.
and what kind of things you went through and your symptoms, and let's take it from there.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. I know that, God provided you at the right time in my life. It was very frightening. I wasn't sure what was going on. I was having all kinds of symptoms. Um, and from fatigue, dizziness, heavy, full head, eye tiredness, hormone imbalance, digestive issues, and then that anxiety, those anxious thoughts. Plus many more things, heart palpitations, blood sugar issues, and I wasn't sure what was going on. And I was, yeah, at a breaking point, and I started to do a little bit of research and came across dysautonomia, which seemed to kind of match what I was experiencing, but I needed to know some more. So I reached out to you, Dr. Hugh, and yeah, pretty desperate for help. And I
Yeah.
know God provided some things, including you, in my journey over these last few months. So,
Wow. Well, I appreciate that. That made me cry a little bit. I didn't expect that. Wow. Well, thanks. Yeah, that means a lot. And it's interesting because I remember, it's just like me and my assistant, like Tammy, who's like my wife. Like we don't have a huge office, or we do telemedicine. And I remember when I got that text, I was actually laying in bed. It was at night that somehow you reached
mm,
out to me, and I responded back to you. And then like here you are 6 months later, way better. So why did you
mhm.
initially take these drugs? What was the initial problem?
Um, I don't remember us exactly talking about, that it was the antibiotics that damaged, but I remember telling you that I had taken antibiotics several times in my life. Um, for sinus issues,
Oh yeah, right,
for
right.
chronic sinus infections.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it has been a long time since I've, used antibiotics. I don't remember which ones I had used, but I know that in previous years, and it's been a while since I've had a sinus infection, but I always have, uh, recurring, just sinus drainage and things like that. And so, but way back when, I was on antibiotics quite a bit for different sinus infections. So, I don't know, I don't remember us talking exactly about that being, one of the main root causes or anything. But I know for a lot of people it can impact them greatly. So,
Yeah, for sure. So tell people like what you went through, what you did, and how you're doing now.
okay, yeah. So when I first found you and started became a client of yours, I like we just said, was in pretty rough shape. And I think fear was playing a lot of the part into that, just not knowing what was going on.
Yeah,
And so, what was so helpful to me right off the bat was that you sent me your website with a whole bunch of content. You sent me emails, you sent me text messages with personalized content that
yeah,
really made me feel seen and heard, and um, things that you thought might be able to really help me initially, like start to get rid of that low hanging fruit. Like you said, even before we onboarded, you said, this is what it could be. These are some options. And it was just I just breathed a sigh of relief, like, oh, maybe there's help here.
yeah.
um, and so that was fantastic. I've never dealt with a doctor before like that, where you were available, through text or through email with any questions. And I know we kind of chuckled because at the beginning, I messaged you a lot.
You did. I was like, she's messaging me a lot.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
I had a lot of questions, I had
yeah,
a lot of concerns,
yeah,
and like I said, I realized, now, feeling so much better, that fear played a big part of it too. And when you don't know what's wrong, when you don't know what's happening, um, you know, people can experience that, of course. So, but you took some of that out and you said, we're going to get you some help. And, I really felt that. And so I watched a lot of your content. I watched a lot of other people with similar symptoms, like some of the videos that you had out there on your website, and they were very helpful to me. And then you came up with a plan within like 2 days of, how we could start to take care of some of this. And
yeah,
really, what it ended up being is something, but it could have been some of the antibiotics or different things down, in my past and on my journey. Um, but a lot of different stressors, right? In life, we have just different things that cause us stress. Just became a limbic system or
yeah.
nervous system kind of breakdown, which is very, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's very much in line with like dysautonomia and
Oh, for
different
sure.
things.
Yeah,
hmm
yeah,
Um, and so all of those things, um, were all of those systems in my body were impacted by this nervous system breakdown. Um, and yeah, I was starting to understand a little bit more as I was doing some research, and God was revealing things to me
yeah,
as I was praying and really giving that over to Him and not being so afraid. And just trusting Him. And so through this whole process, you had me start to cut down on some anti-inflammatory foods and do a meat and fruit diet for a while, and then start to put things back in to see how I responded. And to try different supplements, like fish oil and different things that can help with the brain health and anti-inflammatory. So, and then you also helped me to sleep better, because that was an issue as well. And so that was really important right off the bat too,
yeah.
to start sleeping better as well. So,
Yeah, I think one of the things when you talk about when people have a illness, chronic illness, weird symptoms, and they don't get People just aren't getting answers in the conventional system. That's just not happening at all. And
Mhm.
then, like, what I really try and do is have all this content on my website. So when you would text me or we'd have phone calls, I would like give you very specific content, like, watch this, watch that.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
that's really critical for people because then they have like a direction. They have like a roadmap. It's not mysterious. It's not crazy. It's not all in your head,
Right,
right? There's things that can
right.
be done, and this is the information. Once you watch it, then it like makes sense of what's happening.
Mhm,
And I know in particular, like one of the things that we were really dealing with was like a hypoglycemia kind of
mhm.
condition. Maybe could you describe kind of what happened with that?
Sure. So I'm a petite, frame and size, and I most of my life since I was about 19, 20 years old, I noticed some hypoglycemic episodes where if I wouldn't eat enough or too much time had gone by, I would start to feel shaky and sweaty and hot and, just, I guess shaky is the word I often used it to describe it. So that's happened for many, many years, but I have found with your suggestions that having smaller meals and more protein in my diet
Yeah.
has been a huge help for that as well. But
Yeah.
I also believe that, that nervous system, I think, I ended up being living in fight or flight. That
Yeah.
was what was going on, right?
For
And,
sure.
um, but for it takes a lot for I'm assuming for the body to kind of get to that fight or flight all the time breakdown kind
Breaking
of
point.
mode.
Yeah.
Years and years of like living in stressors or the way that we handle those stressors. And so I think even when that started for me in my early 20s, um, it probably was already an indicator of, some hypervigilance of
Yeah.
stress and different things. And so, definitely when I have been learning to manage the stress in my life through just taking it to God and those replacing it with truth from God's word
Yeah.
and things. It's something I wish I would have known or done years and years ago because I do think that impacted my blood sugar levels too, and they would just kind of dip all the time. But so managing the stress has been huge, but then changing my eating habits and
Yeah.
more protein and smaller, more frequent meals has been key for me as well.
Yeah. That's really significant. And then, two, also you were so anxious, like you actually gave up driving for a period, right?
Mhm. Yes, I did. Yep, I did. It was, yeah, I think, like I said, the fear of what was wrong, and then that just starts to kind of take over if you let it. But yeah, I've gotten back to as my nervous system has been healing and
Yeah.
just been taking those steps to just not be so stressed and to let go of control and understand just that I'm going to be okay and what it was. And I had to actually step back into it slowly. I couldn't just drive again. I had to kind of um,
Work your way up.
exposure train with that
Yeah.
because I had just, yeah,
Yeah.
really gotten very fearful and anxious. And all of that is much better
Yeah.
today. So,
Yeah, I think when if I recall, when we first met on the Zoom call, I had you do some like neurological things, and that kind of spurred on
mhm,
some. I think you got kind of anxious and nervous when I just did those basic neurology tests on you.
yeah.
So that was definitely telling you that your nervous system was like kind of
Mhm.
like really fragile.
Yes. Yeah. Hyper vigilant for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great. If there's anyone out there watching them, what would you what would be your advice to that person that because someone's gonna be watching Amy right now and they're gonna be relating to them,
Yeah.
just your overall experience and how you're doing.
Yeah. I would say there's hope. There's hope. First of all, God isn't surprised by it. I don't know where everyone's faith level is, but it was the number one, important thing for me, to remember that God's in control. I don't have to be. And then just if he's put Dr. Hugh in your path, let him work through that, and you know, try not to fear, and just trust, knowing that there is a plan, and there's help, there's hope, and it's going to be okay. And Dr. Hugh has some excellent content. He's so knowledgeable, and he will help you to discover what is best for you, what's going to work for you, and ultimately, yeah, just put your faith in the Lord, and if it's stress, um, if it's stress, just let
Yeah.
go, and let God, for
Yeah.
sure.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's really great. One thing, when I try and make these initial calls, like we have the initial calls, like I'm a spiritual person, right? And I say this in every conversation, is God
Mhm.
designed us to be well, right? So every
Yep.
every Zoom call, when I first meet a person, somewhere in that conversation, I'm talking about God designed us to be well, like you're designed to be well. So the thing is, we need to figure out, if you have a chronic illness, if you have dysautonomia, whatever it is, there's something
Mhm.
hindering your God-given
Yep.
healing ability to function and heal. And that's all that we're trying to do here, is figure out what that hindrance is. And then once you can clear that up, then the power that made the body, the spirit, the soul, whatever term you want to put onto it, that heals. And I can tell you this, that I say that to everybody right away, because I want to know, I want clients to know, like, right away, I'm a spiritual being. And like, if people have that awareness, unfortunately, some people
Mhm.
don't. They just think like they're a meat stick, right? They're just like the flesh and blood. It's more than that. I can tell you, the people
Yep.
that get the best results are one people that are spiritual, that believe that their body can heal, that God designed it to
Mhm.
heal. And the second thing, if they're married, that their
Mm.
spouse is supportive, and you had both of those in your corner. And that's why
Yes.
you got better. I mean, you're made up full of recovery. And in fact, in my viewpoint, sometimes people are going to be in better health, and I think you're one of them, because there were some things, out points, that you didn't really know that were really out, but now for, like, example, the hypoglycemia thing, right? So now that's
Mhm.
handled to a high degree, where now you actually have better health than before, because you're handling these, like, kind of like mystery symptoms that maybe were here and there, but really weren't bothersome, until boom, this atomic bomb got dropped in your lap.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Agreed.
Well, great. Any last thoughts here before we end the call?
No, just thank you again. I really appreciate your help, and um, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And remember, where there's help, there's hope.
Mhm.
Take care, Amy. Bye bye.
Okay, you too, Dr.
All right.
Hugh.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.